Welcome to the Jackson Rudolph podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Rudolph, and this is episode 116. And y'all, this is an episode that should have happened so long before now, it's not even funny. And we're going to have to follow up because we're missing a Presley brother and we're missing a sister for that matter. But that's beside the point. We've got Reid and Cole Presley on the podcast tonight. And I'll start by introducing them a little bit myself because anybody that has followed my sport karate career knows that my sport karate career is not the same without these two guys for so many different reasons, right? Obviously, we became best friends. Eventually, we were teammates. But what everybody knows is that we were competitors. We were the three guys at the top of the men's weapons division for multiple seasons, continued to push each other. And I think that the boys will agree with me when I say this. None of us would have been the same without each other, right? And so that's why this episode is so special to me because it's two people that are very special to me, of course, both groomsmen in my wedding. But I'll stop it with all the sappy stuff, and I'll just let Reid and Cole, how about you guys introduce yourselves a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, anytime we have to introduce ourselves next to each other, we end up trying to pick pieces of each other's life because if I just say my intro and then he says his intro, we're going to say the same story. So, I'll try to abbreviate it a little bit. Well, if you guys don't know, my name is Reid Presley, Paul Mitchell, athlete, and then also some kind of coin it the double boat innovator. But I also, anytime I say that, I got to shout out Jarrett Liker because I think we were right around the same time. But yeah, going back in kind of the past, started martial arts when I was 5. I believe we'll go into some more details about that in a little bit. Kept going through it, fell in love with martial arts. As soon as my dad found out that you could compete inside of martial arts, he's like, you're either going to do baseball or martial arts. Actually, you're going to do both. So he threw me out there, started working on the Bartlett Taekwondo Extreme team, and then just kept doing that, got into the circuit. We'll go into more details about that later. We moved to St. Louis, had the awesome opportunity to work with Master Terry Creamer and Brett Thompson. And then from there, we moved down to Nashville. And that's the point in time where my family ended up purchasing a school with our head instructor. That's where we started teaching martial arts, taking our NASCA career to the next level. We were hopping out there on the floor and teaching. And then on the weekends, we were going to like AKA Sharky's boot camp, went to American camps. We went to camps like Johnny Tension way back when we were little. So we've been all over the place, training martial arts. And it's just been an amazing journey. It's been something to where, we can basically both say that starting in RSKC, going to that Bluegrass Nationals, seeing those amazing people, Casey Marks, Matt Emick. I don't want to say a long list because I'll leave somebody out inevitably, but seeing that, wanting to be up there, eventually working our way up to represent the amazing Team AKA. Then we represented Team America, and then we landed at, Team Paul Mitchell. I ended up taking a little bit of we can say retire, but I don't like to say retire because who knows where life will take you. But we can say I periodically retired, started working for Premier Martial Arts, and I've been there for the past 3 years as a success coach or franchise business consultant. And that gave me the amazing opportunity to really not just know how to do martial arts, but how to operate martial arts schools on a large scale. And I've been really dedicated to that, all into it. And that's where most of my focus has been. So hopefully I didn't leave any major parts out there. Cool.
All right. Well, like he said, many of his stories kind of go pretty parallel with me. So I'll kind of aim a little bit more on what we've been doing recently. Like he said, we're both working at the corporate office here in Knoxville, Tennessee for PMA. And we're just basically helping schools get open and start running, helping with operations and with their teams. But it's been a really cool opportunity to continue doing martial arts while also making a career out of it. And so I don't want to repeat anything that he said, but again, we had a really long come up in terms of competition with different teams. And ultimately we landed at Team Paul Mitchell, and we're super excited to be here today.
Awesome. And I'm super excited to have you guys. I think that with Reid's monologue, that's the show, folks. You guys.
All right, everybody, peace out. I'm out of here, guys. Yeah.
At least he warned you first.
But hey, before we get into some storytelling, because that's the part of this show that I'm most excited about, is just getting to talk about some of the crazy experiences that we had sharing the ring together. But we have two extremely exciting announcements coming from Team Competitive Edge, which was founded by yours truly and these truly, I guess. So we started it. We brought on Jake as a head coach recently, and we've got some really, really big news for Competitive Edge, starting with 6 new players being added to the Competitive Edge roster. We are adding the following athletes to the team: Aaron Williams, Jackson Hensley, Leah Oswald, Olivia Cano, Malachi Randall, and Harold Lerner are all going to be joining Team Competitive Edge effective immediately. We're going to get them in uniform ASAP, and we are so excited to have each of these athletes on the team. And I want to take an opportunity to talk about a little bit of all of these guys' background, because such a diverse set of talent. Let's start. I'll just go in the order that I read them off here. So Aaron Williams, as you guys know, right, the Williams family, an integral part of the Competitive Edge brand. Eden, Elijah, little Miri, Miss Amy representing the senior division. They've always been a strong part of our team, so we're super excited to welcome Aaron to the team as well. Jackson Hensley, I know Reid and Cole, you guys have been a lot more intimately involved with Jackson recently in his training and watching him on the come up. I remember, a lot of people don't forget this, but Aaron Hensley was the very first host of any seminar that I ever taught when I was 14 years old. And so I remember very, very tiny little Jackson Hensley. And so seeing him grow and develop into an athlete has been awesome. Leah Oswald has been very, very good in the traditional weapons, traditional division, weapons and forms throughout the season this year. She has a crazy life story, living part-time in Hawaii, part-time in Utah. She trains with Mr. Miyaguni, who's a sensei out in Japan, where she gets her traditional kata training. So we are super stoked that she's going to be wearing Team Competitive Edge when she competes over here in the States. Olivia Cano, training out of Texas. She comes from Marco Villanueva and their school down there in Texas. She also trains at the Rojo Dojo, otherwise known as the Molina household, with now teammates Cody and Michael Molina. So much great talent coming there out of Texas. And I promise I'm almost done with these highlights, y'all, and I'm going to let y'all talk about these guys. I want to be sure that we give a shout out to where all these guys came from, because Competitive Edge couldn't have the blessing to pick up these athletes without their original instructors and schools being willing to let them wear our colors. Malachi Randall, hailing from Michigan, trains out of Macomb Martial Arts, MMA, as well as PKSA. So we're super excited to have him. He's done a few NASCA tournaments so far, but he really caught our attention by winning his fighting division at the Diamond Nationals. Super positive influence on social media. Just an all-around great kid. We're super excited to have him on the team as well. And then last but certainly not least, we have Harold Lerner, who hasn't been making it out to the national competitions as much, but he's going to be coming back with a vengeance next year. And this kid is capable of some crazy bow tricks. The stuff that this guy is getting ready to throw in his forms is absolutely insane. He does CMX, he does traditional, he does it all. Trains with Jarrett Liker, Mason Stowell, and that whole camp for his traditional forms. So guys, that was a mouthful, but that's just how impressive all of these athletes are. Like literally every single athlete on that list has a different story, a great story, and everyone deserving of this opportunity to represent Team Competitive Edge. So now that I've given my Reid equivalent monologue,
that's what I was going to say.
Just how excited you guys are for all these athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. I was definitely going to call you out on that. Like, Reid, don't go on monologues. And then, it's been like 8 minutes. I think you've talked for like 8 minutes. So anyway, yeah, we're super excited for all of these pickups. We don't get to be as involved with the martial arts circuit as we used to be for the aforementioned responsibilities, but we're definitely checking out the live streams. We show up when we can. I was at the Battle of Atlanta this past year, so it's cool to see everyone there. But, you have definitely a very strategic blanket coverage of like multiple divisions, from the traditional to the CMX, but then also the fighting, as we kind of pivot to make sure that we kind of check all of those boxes and really have an amazing team that not just develops athletes, but, really has great camaraderie and has victories and wins as well. First person that kind of comes to mind is someone that, we've all kind of worked with, is that Jackson Hensley. he's really like, he's always been a hard worker, and he kind of reminds me a little bit of Cole in a sense of like, you don't see him without a weapon. It could be a bow staff, it could be a sword, it could be commas, you name it, he's going to do it, and he's going to do it really well. And he also has really picked up his tricking game. Shout out Alex Macias, who's been working with them strategically to elevate that game. But you kind of really saw him kind of turn into that in his age group. Now he's bleeding that lines of that youth competitor, but you can see a little bit of that man coming out as well as he becomes his own person. And then Aaron Williams, that's always like kind of super close to my heart. And then I'll let Cole go. Just the Williams family in general, like each of them just all improving at their own rate, but each of them inevitably have found a home and a long-time home at Competitive Edge. And I'm just super excited for him. I think when we did the announcement call, he was just like, it's my time. It's time to go. And I know that he's going to carry that work ethic forward. I know Jake has been encouraging him a lot as well. So shout out to the other Presley brother. I'll let Cole go.
All right. and cut. All right. Cut. Nice. Yeah, I think Reid said a lot of what I would say as well about Jackson, and I'll hit a little bit more on Aaron. That kid's been working hard this year, and you can tell. And it's kind of showing in his forms when he's competing, and also Jake keeps us updated every now and then when he's at the studio about how hard this kid's working, and we're really excited to add him. And these other athletes that we're adding, Jackson's had some really positive things, and I've been sneaking into a lot of live streams lately, just kind of staying in the shadows, but I'm watching, I'm seeing what's going on, and all of these guys are just absolutely incredible, and we couldn't be more happy to have them.
Absolutely. And, just to make sure I cover everybody, with Harold, I rely solely on Jackson, and super excited to see anybody that can come out there with some crazy weapon maneuvers and just elevate that to the next level. And I know that Jackson makes sure that he stays on top of people with that kind of solid foundation, so to speak. So when you combine that solid foundation with craziness, you know how to have a performance, I know he's going to be a great addition. Both of the ladies, Olivia and Leah, it's really cool to once again see competitors that dabble in kind of those both things. It's hardcore traditional martial arts, but then also going into the CMX. That's something that I think all three of us have tried to do, whether it's running K-Beck, Go-Pai show, which I don't know how often those are done now, but back then it's totally fine. But then also the traditional weapons, it just takes the ability to go into that CMX. It's that much easier because the hard part of CMX is being a good martial artist. So when you check that box, then you get to do what everyone's favorite thing is, and that's throw our weapons in the air and scream like we're crazy, right? So it's just super cool. And then, of course, you have Malachi. I heard that he's like undefeated in his divisions fighting. He has great personality. He's active on social media. And I just think all of these people are going to be a great addition as far as just building that team, that camaraderie, and then adding to that family. You have to keep me quiet this time. I'll just.
No, I was just going to say, I couldn't have said it better myself. And I think you guys gave great testimonies to the competitors that you know best in Jackson and Aaron. And then everybody else on that roster of additions, Leah, Olivia, Malachi, and Harold. I've been doing bow private lessons with all of them. Malachi in particular, trying to strengthen our junior fighting team. He's going to be kicking people in the face alongside Cheeks Elizondo, who is another one of our more recent pickups, but obviously he's been on the team for several tournaments now, so we're super stoked to have him as well. And that's something that Competitive Edge is going to be looking at more in the future, is building out more of a junior fighting team. And Malachi and Cheeks are a great start to that. And don't forget, we've got some multi-talented athletes on the team that fight and make stage performs in weapons. You got Cody Molina. Michael Molina gets out there and scraps sometimes. When Gavin Richmond comes back from injury, we might see him getting back in the fighting ring. So much exciting stuff happening for Competitive Edge. And I really appreciate all of the Competitive Edge faithful and family in the comments showing that love. And now we get to show love for some more Competitive Edge videos. We gave a little teaser about it while we were at Diamonds, but now we're going to come out with some more details. Competitive Edge Winter Camp is back, and it is going to feature the 4 head coaches of the team for the first time together in person in over 3 years because of COVID. And one of the things that makes this so special is we don't know if it's ever going to be able to happen again. With me being in medical school and going off, and the Army sending me everywhere to go through that process, and then obviously you two chasing your professional dreams. the logistics to make this happen are only going to get more difficult. And so not to mention Jake potentially going Hollywood on us, right? So
he needs to cut his hair, man. What's going on?
To get all four of us together to teach a camp again for the first time in a while, and for what might be the last time for a while, I'm so excited about it. And while I give you guys an opportunity to talk about it, guess what? In the chat right now is the link to register for Competitive Edge Winter Camp. So if you want to come and join us, 2-day camp, lots of hours of training both days. We've even got some surprises, maybe a little surprise tricking gathering for everybody. It's going to be so much fun. So I just dropped that Uventex registration link down in the chat. Make sure you guys give that a click. Go sign up in Lebanon, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, home of the Presley brothers. We can't wait. Reid and Cole, tell us about it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. No, super stoked. When we were planning it out, we were just like, hey, it's been a while. Do we want to do this? And so we started connecting the dots. We started putting a plan in action. And Jackson was the first person to notice, it's like, this might be a little sentimental here, guys. Like all of the things that he just said, he's like, we got to really make sure that we take it to the next level and really make it something that's memorable, kind of like, the OG C3, competitive edge. And I just can't be more excited about it. And looking at what's going on inside of the sport karate world, it's really something that I've been looking forward to getting involved in, is really trying to spend more time investing in it. And what better way to invest in it than actually host these kind of training camps, because that's something that we both all of us hold near and dear to our hearts, whether it was with, other teams like AKA and AmeriKick, or, the competitive edge camps that we've done through the Battle of Atlanta, and then also the winter camps that we've done. And so we could talk all over the place about the content that we will be doing, from whether it's everybody's favorite stances and chambers and making sure we all look good, to making sure that we're innovating and facilitating creative thoughts. But then something I'm looking forward to about this one is actually trying to allow more time for people to get to know us, not just in Q&A sessions. Like, we're going to hang out with you guys. We're going to have some times where you can break down any kind of barriers, provide enough time to where the nerves kind of settle, and then you guys can just talk to us as friends and lover of the martial arts and the sport. So that's kind of what, oh yeah. And I see Jeannie commented, and Reid doing conditioning. It's not a camp unless I'm able to lead some of this conditioning. Shout out Mr. Marcel Jones, because he taught me what it means to be a true core martial arts black belt when he had us at that pro rank camp down there. He would just kill us, man. So it's like, so I have to carry that on, because that makes us well-rounded true athletes. Again, gonna be quiet.
Yeah, and it's time. Good. Yeah, I mean, Jackson, like you said, it's been a while since we've done this, and one thing about the camps that we do get to do together in person is it always feels like one of those just moments in time that just go perfectly, and we're just having a good time. It almost just goes by in a blink of an eye, and sometimes a camp doesn't always go like that. And when we're just going back and forth, we're having ideas and different things responding from each other. It's just like the process is just so much fun. So I'm looking forward to getting back in person with you again, and we're going to make it one for the books.
Awesome. So once again, everybody, I just dropped that link down in the chat. So go ahead, scurry on over there, register for CE Winter Camp. It's going to be a legendary one, and then get right back over here to this podcast so that you can hear some of the storytelling that's coming up. And now, as we transition, that is the end of all the competitive edge talk. We'll probably bring it up again. But new athletes, winter camp coming back. We're so stoked for that. But now let's get into some current sport karate talk, and then we'll get on to the storytelling. So you both mentioned that you've been kind of tuning into the live streams and keeping a pulse on what's been going on in the sport karate world. And kind of an important tournament just happened last week, right? Diamond Nationals, from what you guys were able to see of it on social media, Uventex TV stream, Century had a live stream going. What were some of you guys' reactions or highlights that you saw from the event?
Stop. All right, so I'll go ahead and start this time. First, I got to shout out Avery and Jake. They absolutely killed it in their divisions and took home some big wins. So I can't go talking about some highlights at Diamonds without obviously talking about them first. A couple other forms that I saw that were really cool, and I like to watch not only because they killed it, but because of how far they've come in this competition world. One of them being Dawson Holt. That man, every time he steps on the stage, he lights it on fire, and he's truly becoming an incredible men's division in really both traditional and CMX. He's absolutely killing it. Mr. Clean, as they say. Another one that comes to mind, and this one's was really cool for me to see because it's actually something that I did a really long time ago, and to see it again on stage at Diamond Nationals is Jeff Doss did my favorite form, Moon Moo, which is like the most difficult form that I have ever tried to do. It's absolutely crazy. It's got slow side kicks. You got to spin on one leg. To see him doing that on stage with the crazy lights and everything, shout out to him. That was absolutely incredible. Another one that comes to mind, Eden Williams. She was on stage with her commas, absolutely killing it, doing some crazy manipulations, throwing it behind her head. And then that last one at the very end, manipulating it around the other comma. She absolutely killed it up there. I'll let you go ahead and say anything else to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, whether I was tuning into the stream or looking at the articles that Black Belt Magazine produces for everybody to keep people in tune, you know, I think Cole mentioned Eden, but but a lot of us, we kind of talk about the guys. So I think it's worth mentioning all those female fighters that are showing up there and absolutely crushing it. You know, it's really cool to really look at them and be like, they could beat up some of the guys out there, you know, like they're coming out there, they're hitting it hard. And it's really, really encouraging to see as you're kind of seeing everybody grow together. The divisions are getting bigger and they're really bringing that heat there. I have to go back to Dawson because, you know, you see him doing a couple things. I believe when I was looking at the stream, you saw him do not just the CMX sword, which is Mr., but you also see him doing the traditional sword. And just the sheer power that he has, you can definitely tell that he's not only trained with some of us, with Jason, but also you have that Cowman and Mr. Jones in there as well. But then it almost brought me back into memories of seeing like Stephen Grass up there, man. Like just sheer power, just that Thor aspect there. I always have to shout out Rashad because, you know, double bow is super close to my heart and I don't get to get out there myself and do it. But seeing him out there constantly pushing the envelope when it comes to the releases, and man, he did something crazy right before he did some push-ups. But if he would have like absolutely nailed, he like threw it behind him, spun it as the other one was spinning. Like, I don't do that stuff, man. Like it was super cool to see. And I just love watching him get out there. I was going to highlight Moon Moo myself because it brings back memories of Jason making us hold our leg and spin around, raise it and kick. So that's there. Man, I feel like I could just keep going on and on, but you know, I'll kind of stop there.
No, I think that was a great overview because that was a lot of the moments that I picked up on. And you know, it's weird. Cole talked about how sometimes when we're like in a rhythm at camp, right? You blink and then camp's over. That's very much how it gets like when I'm watching a night show and I'm behind the mic. It's like I'm excited about everything going on, and the next thing I know, the show's over, right? But talking about the end of the show, one name that I didn't hear you guys mention, Solid and what he did in men's CMX form. Yes. I thought that was awesome, especially with the music choice and the shout out to Micah. I thought that was really cool because, I mean, when we were younger, how many times did we see Micah win an overall grand using Lights by Ellie Golden, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now that you mention it, man, I didn't catch it live, but when I saw the playback, the song and seeing him do the intro and how strong and powerful Salif is, I mean, I got chills watching it, man. It was really cool to see that kind of flashback in real time.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we talked about diamonds, we talked about the CE stuff, and now we can get to our regularly scheduled program. And now let's get to some of this storytelling and talking about you guys. And, you know, because Reid's been on the show once before, but it was for one of our old film study episodes, which we can't do as much anymore for copyright reasons. So we really haven't gotten to hear like Reid's full story, right? And then Cole, I don't know how this happened, but this is your first appearance on the show, right? So let's start by talking a little bit about the origin story. So Reid, kind of pick it up where you left off when you kind of gave the original introduction. But how did you get started? And then obviously Cole, speak to how that kind of got you thrown into sport karate.
Absolutely. So I got started because one of my close friends inside of our neighborhood, his name was Chase. I forget exactly what it was, like bring a buddy, break a board, try martial arts, but essentially I was a referral, and just went to class, fell in love. That's where I was introduced to Jason Warren, our still coach, still involved with him. I was on the phone with him earlier today and really just fell in love with martial arts. And it's really something that was amazing. And that was at Bartlett Taekwondo in Memphis, Tennessee. And I'll stop there because I'll go into full life story. But that's how I got started. I was a referred member with Chase, and then just fell in love with martial arts from there.
It's so cool. You just get thrown into it, or what?
You kind of cut out a little bit there, but I think I caught on. So basically, what happened was after Reid started for a little bit, our dad caught his eye on a family class. And obviously, after Reid started and he wanted to train, we all started training. And now that has basically ended up with all of us having black belts from Avery to our mom now, which is a super cool thing. But yeah, I basically just got thrown into it with the family class. I still remember my first class. I remember what shirt I was wearing. It was also at Bartlett Taekwondo. And it just kind of took off from there, man. It haven't stopped since.
Mr. B and Cool Beans, hearing that all the time.
That's awesome. So yeah, I always love getting the origin stories of anybody that comes on the show, because especially this being a sport karate podcast, like in the sport karate community, we all come from such diverse backgrounds. And, in ways, I always tell people that, like, if you make it big in sport karate, you're a big fish in a small pond, right? So the way that people got to what is admittedly a small sport, it's always an interesting story to hear it. And Reid, your story in particular is laden with obstacles, right? You had a severe illness that took you out of commission, so you had to stop competing once. Then you came back, and then you ruptured your Achilles in Doha, Qatar, or Qatar, however you pronounce it, right? And then you came back again. So talk a little bit about encountering those obstacles, how some of that happened, because I think some of it is still even a mystery to you, right? And then talk about what was necessary for you to come back from those hurdles.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we all know, coming from the sport karate world, one of the hardest things to do is to fight your way through the seeds. And especially when you age up, whether you're going from one age bracket to another, or you're going from the underbelt ranks to the black belt divisions, fighting that seed battle is tough. And I felt like mine kind of aligned almost at the same time, where I forget exactly how old I was, but started in that black belt division. There's some videos of me like doing like all the crazy lean back, going to the splits, wearing the hakama. And so I was fighting through the seeds and finally making it into runoffs, going against like Corey Lutkus, because I was 18 and under at the time. And during all of that, training with people like Casey Marks, Lauren Carney, but really one that stood out was Sensei John Sharkey, and like seeing him get down his low horse stances, teach me go price show, going up to the AKA winter camp when it was on that farm, and just that crazy experience with Jason, my coach, able to go up there. At that time, was added to team AK. Am I getting my stories mixed up? No, I don't think so. Added, and then I ended up getting sick somehow. I don't even necessarily know. It was like strep throat or something along those lines. Pumped in full of tons of like antibiotics. My immune system got whacked. I had like leaky gut where I was like allergic to everything, and essentially it just kind of took me right out of competition. And so it's kind of like that, getting on AKA, started to have a name of myself, and then disappear. I think if anybody knows Will Greenberg, probably not. When I eventually came back from that, he's like, him and Ross Constant were talking like, did that kid die? Like, is it like, where did he come from? Right. So that was one of those times that I came back, kind of that double whammy. Built it back up again, started to become consistent, worked my way through the seeds again, and started going on performance tours with Sideswipe, affiliated with AK, basically interchangeable. They're almost the same. Went to one of those performances in Doha, Qatar, did a round off on the stage, basically got double bounced on it. That Achilles probably related to, I don't remember if it was like Cipro or one of the antibiotics that actually deteriorates tendons. Pop, boom, back to the drawing board again. Ruptured Achilles, can't go, another year out, and then had to come back from that. It really, my story in martial arts kind of goes right along the lines of like a story of adversity. And that's kind of those two, but the moral or the takeaway from the story is keep going. Don't let the seeds beat you. Don't let it injury. Don't let it illness. You can always come back. And you every time, not trying to do this here, but you can always come back stronger. I don't think there was a time where I came back less. It was always, that's my goal. That's my mission. That's what I got to do. Put in the work. And then that's how you would overcome it there.
And the silver lining of that period of recovery from the Achilles rupture was the birth of double bow as we know it, right? Yes, there were other people who did it, but Reid was the first one to go on stage and win overall grand championships with it, right? Reid, you truly, and I know you're humble and I know you give credit to other people that may have done it first, but Reid is the one who's responsible for making double bow a thing, right? And without that period of recovery from the Achilles rupture, who knows if that would have happened, number one, because you had a bunch of free time where you had to stand around on one foot and mess around with two bows. And you also happen to have a brother who was instrumental in the creation of so many of those combos and tricks. So Reid, first, where does the idea even come from? And then Cole, speak to how much you really helped this guy do what he did.
That's right. Absolutely. So when I try to think about like, when exactly did double bow become a thing? And it once again, I'm talking a lot about AKA here. You can tell where I'm very integrated into that. I think it was me and Cole Eckert and just some of us, we were joking around one time like, all right, there's double sword, there's two commas, what are we going to do? And then I think Cole or somebody, we were like, let's do double bow staff. And then I think it was Cole Eckert was like, let's just cut the bows in half. And then we got two bow stabs, right? And then so like that was kind of one of those things that that kind of just stuck with you. An idea is something that it happens here first, and then you put a plan together, you take action, you can actually create it. During that downtime, I knew from this illness, having to come back stronger and everything, it's like, how can I jump, away, kind of jump, take a leap out of those seeds and like hit the ground running and have something that was memorable. And like double bow was one of those things that kind of took place. Like, let's do something, let's innovate, let's make this together. I had two crutches, so it's like, let's just mess around. All right, I can use both hands here, And then as Jason was saying, it kind of just poof, just happened. Hey, would this work? How can we maneuver these things? And then that's where it happened. And that's where, Cole can take it from there.
Yeah. I mean, basically what fed a lot of the creativity with double bow is just that it felt like at the time, the possibilities were endless. There was like, you couldn't make a mistake, if that makes any sense. So it's just like, well, let's see what happens if I try this, or, hey, it'd be really cool if we could maybe spin it around the other one. So it was just pure creativity, and it just felt like there was no limitations. And because of that, it really naturally fell together. And I think that's why he's not really super sure when exactly it started, because the process just happened.
For sure. And there's a nugget within this story that you guys wouldn't just naturally come out with. So I'm going to bless our audience with this little nugget. But if I remember correctly, there was a time period where Reid was in the adult division and Cole and I were in the junior division. But Cole was still coming up with a lot of Reid's double bow tricks. And were there not a few times, Reid, that you won adult overalls and then cut Cole a little bit of the money?
Yes, I believe there was. There was a few times where Cole was like, here, try this move out. Boom. And I'm like, all right, I'll give you like $5, things. I'm just kidding, but absolutely. That's one thing that I try to do my best of. You can kind of tell during this podcast here is I try to give credit, where I can. And then on that note, I have to shout out, Kamachoka and Marcel Jones, because they helped add that weapon feel to it. It's like, all right, we got two bow sets. How can we take a double weapon and make it a weapon? well, let's learn from one of the best double weapon people that there is on the planet. And so that's where it comes in. But absolutely, as soon as he came into the division, it's like, you better beat me now, man. No more money. No, yeah.
For sure. And so what that set up with Cole's contributions and obviously Reid, you doing it made it obvious that at some point you guys would have to do Team Sync together. And of course you did. We're very successful with it. Won ISK, US Open titles, won the Sync division numerous times over at a lot of the major tournaments on the circuit. And I want to start with Cole on this one as you guys start talking about your Sync form. Because really, Cole, in a way, you had more on the line with this. Because what everybody knew you for at the time, Reid and I knew, of course, what you could do with other weapons. But the world didn't necessarily know that yet, right? And so you were putting down your primary weapon of commas and picking up double bow and putting yourself out there and trying to keep up with the guy who was known as the double bow guy. So, Cole, speak to that a little bit and kind of facing that reality and putting aside one part of your competitive identity to do this team thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely pretty nerve-wracking, and I think you can see it a little bit on my face in the first couple performances as I'm really starting to get comfortable and into it a little bit. It kind of like the creation of double bow. It just started to happen actually a couple weeks out from the US Open that we first did it at. We were just kind of talking, and because I helped him out a lot with the different transitions and strikes and things, I kind of already had a little bit of comfortability with the weapon. So we just started putting stuff together, used some things that I had made that he didn't put in his forms and other things that he had in his forms already, and just started kind of piecing things together. And I don't even remember how we got onto it, but we started throwing it back and forth and ended up doing that like crossbow, bow and arrow thing back and forth. But yeah, it was almost went by in a blink of an eye. We decided to do it. Next thing you know, we were on stage at US Open. We ended up getting that title and started going and doing it at other tournaments a couple times. Didn't work out perfectly. We definitely had some interesting forms that we did in that division. But yeah, I mean, it was nothing but fun. I mean, there was a little bit of nerves, but I think because of that element that you mentioned, it was almost like I didn't have anything to lose. It's like, oh, he is the comma guy. He messed up, or oh, he looked a little weird. No, it didn't matter. I do commas, and I'm stepping out there with double bow.
I have to, give him credit because Cole is, and I'm gonna butcher this, but I watch anime sometimes. There's this Naruto character that like can copy people's ninjutsu in the same real time. Cole's kind of like that guy in a sense of like he can see somebody's movements. And not only can he do the technique and learn that way, but he can copy their body mechanics, even down to the T of like head tilt and like hand placement. So like he's a very visual person, and that's why he's able to be so creative, because if he can see it, he can do it, and then he can build on it.
Yeah, I remember plenty of games of sport karate charades that we would play that if there was video of would probably offend a few people. Times, absolutely. And so, we talk in this part of the show about Cole's creativity, obviously how much it contributed to Sync. And then Cole, I think that a huge part of your career was Sync, because you mentioned those early times, making it to those big stages and being a little nervous, but that just prepared you for when you got to that level on an individual basis and you were making stage with your commas all the time. That was something where by the time you were in the adult division and making stage with your comma form, you were natural, right? And so one thing that you have such this great reputation for is your creativity with commas, with double bow, coming out of US Open, doing half comma form, half bow form, right? So first, speak to that a little bit. And if you know where it comes from, where does that come from, or what your creative process is? But then also for any young competitors watching, what are your best tips for creativity?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a little bit of it that is hard to explain, but in terms of getting started, I mean, the biggest thing about it is creativity is a muscle in the sense that you got to practice it. You got to be able to pick up on when, you did something that might have felt weird, but when you start to get into this creative mindset, you're like, well, it might have felt weird, but what does it look like? Okay, that did kind of look pretty good, and kind of going through that. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier. I think one of the biggest things is kind of coming from that mindset of there are no mistakes, right? You kind of go through it. Now, obviously, once you figure out what that concept or or illusion, whatever it is that you're trying to create is, you got to, make it fit the criteria that we have in our martial arts competition. But when you're coming up with things, all of that kind of goes out the window, and you're just trying to create something that looks cool or that accomplishes some sort of goal that you're looking to in your form. So I think my biggest piece of advice is just like, when you're messing around with weapons, have a period where, like, no matter what you do, try to clear your mind and you're not making a mistake. I think that'll go a long way.
Beautifully said. That was awesome. And so now, as we're talking about creativity, we're talking about some of the stuff that you guys have done. This is really the part of the show that I think the most people are going to want to go back and watch over again, because we also might get a little chance to make fun of each other here. But I want to start talking about, like, specific tricks, specific moments, right? So Reid, we'll go to you now. Let's start easy, right? In all of your double bow forms, what was your favorite double bow trick that you ever landed in competition?
Favorite double bow trick that I landed in competition? That I don't know. I think it might come down to the name, but the one that comes to mind that I think kind of put double bow out there, other than whether we call it like the juggling circus, where I'm doing all kinds of crazy like Jedi stuff, whatever, is the Magneto, where you take one weapon, you throw it out there, and you almost have that like Force-like look. He's also one of my favorite characters, but you kind of have that look there, and then taking it to the next level. I don't know why we call it the twirly bird, where you throw one out there and you spin it around the other one, you toss it and you catch it. I would have to say that those were some of the cooler ones to hit. It's probably a little bit of that sense of accomplishment, because it would always be at the end of my form. So like, if I caught, I was also a dropper, so if I caught, slammed him down, it was like one of the best feelings ever when I could catch that weapon there. So that's probably the best one in competition that I have.
Twirly bird was my favorite of yours too.
There it is. Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite trick that I ever did in competition would have to be the variation of the comma spinning around the other, where I throw it behind my back and catch it horizontally. Not just because of the way that it comes around my back, and it is pretty difficult to do, but doing it in competition, especially on stage, it usually was towards the end. It was very, it was kind of like the big bang at the end of the form, so to speak. And so as I come around and see the what's in front of the stage, I see the judges the last time, I see the crowd, I know the form's over, I grab it and I finish. That probably created some of the coolest moments in my competitive career in terms of what I'm seeing and experiencing. So I'd have to say that trick.
Those are both awesome. And I love how they're somewhat related too, right? Like, end of the form move, and also same vibe, right? Horizontal release that becomes one weapon spinning on the other. There's something poetic about the two of you, like, having those as your biggest moves that were at the ends of your forms. And so now I'm gonna flip the question a little bit, because I'm curious about this. Now I want you to talk about each other, right? And I'm gonna edit the question a bit and say, first, so we'll start with Reid. What was your favorite trick that Cole did, just from you being entertained by it or you seeing the process of how it was created? But let's also not forget that you guys were competitors, right? You're brothers, but you were competitors. So not only do I want to hear your favorite trick of Cole's, I also want to hear your least favorite trick of Cole's. Whether it was because when you did it, you thought you were going to get beat every time, or like you thought that it was stupid and like people went crazy when he hit it, but you just didn't like it for that reason. But I want to hear the brothers bicker a bit about this topic.
I don't know if you're gonna hear us bicker. We're like one of those weird brothers that like, well, that's actually a lie. But anyway, man, that's tricky, because I'm gonna kind of flip it a little bit. It's not so much, and it's gonna be the same. It's not so much a singular trick. Sometimes it's where he comes around here, sometimes it was some of the bigger ones where he'd catch, like, absolutely. But there would be like a certain look on his face when he's doing it that's like, oh yeah, I just landed that. Good luck, everybody else. And in that moment, it would be my favorite and my, oh man, I should have dropped or something. I wish I wasn't on that stage, because like we just all knew. And Jackson, you might be able to agree or disagree, but we kind of knew when Cole was going to win. I'll just leave it at that. There was a certain energy that would hit. And so I don't know if that's specific enough for you, but it was more of like just an overall energy and body language. When Cole nailed something that everyone felt, the room felt it, that's when I would be like, holy goodness. That was it. That was the move. That was the moment that people will remember from this tournament.
And before Cole answers, I want to piggyback off of that and agree with you, because I know exactly what you're talking about. It's something we see in sports, right? There are certain athletes that have a certain mode they go into where it creates a different feeling, right? And I know exactly the vibe that you're talking about when Cole would hit one of those forms, right? And I think, Jason, at least when we were all competing, Jason used to post this all the time, and I think it's accurate, is he would always call Cole the people's champ. And I think that was something that had such a great impact when he was in that mode, because Reid, the storyline was so easy between us, the single bow guy versus the double bow guy. We had the 2013 season as juniors, where it was always you and I in the runoffs against each other. And at that point, in sport karate years, Cole was a baby. He had just showed up, right? And also we weren't brothers. So it was easy to pit Reid and I against each other because we weren't blood related to each other, right? And so in those moments where the storylines would be single bow versus double bow, Jackson versus Reid, those times that Cole rose up and was like, hey, wait a minute, it's not about them, right? That shifted the tide of the division, and those were special moments. So I think you hit the nail on the head with that, Reid. And now, Cole, now you talk about your favorites and least favorites of stuff.
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks, guys, for the kind words. Of course, I appreciate it. Let's see. I'll get a little bit more specific since I can with his form. I'd say probably my favorite would have to be the twirly bird, just because I could tell the second that it comes out of one of his hands whether or not he was going to catch it at the end. So I was able to be like, okay, this is going to be a good one. Great. Yeah, exactly. I'm like. Yep. So it was always a good indicator, and it was such a cool trick. My least favorite, I was sitting here thinking about it and trying to pick, and both for the same reason. One of them, he would have them both in the same hand, throw one of them, pass the other one behind his back, and then catch the other one. And I did not like it when he threw that one in there. I don't think he really did it too many times in competition, but the other one he did more often, which was the same kind of toss, but he just turned and looked away as he caught it down to his knee. It always, in practice and at warm-up, it always looked like it was going to go well, and for some reason, he always seemed to do a little bit of a fumble or something on it. So I absolutely hated it when he threw it in there. So I was much more happy when he kept it out.
I think I love what you said there, because if I had to pick something to not like about Reid's forms, I think that would be it, right? Because we had the unique experience in 2014 and 2015. Like, those were the only – you guys are brothers, so you could cheer for each other all the time. 2014 and 2015 were the only seasons that I could just be a Reid fan, didn't really want Reid to win because I wasn't against him, right? And so because I was a fan of Reid in those divisions, and as a fan of Reid, I was like, okay, if you hit your form, you should win every time. Those moments where he would, Reid, do something stupid and then not win because of it, those were my least favorite Reid moments. Because I was like, bro, you just gave away $1,000. Anyway.
Was one of those moments the AKA Warrior Cup where I dropped it twice in the intro on the cross pass? I don't think I ever did that again.
That was against me.
Yeah. I mean, sorry. No, I didn't do that.
Actually, no, that's one of my favorite Warrior Cup stories. So this is where we go off script, and this is the best moments on the show, right? So I remember that Warrior Cup, and I don't remember who it was, but I had gotten a good draw that night, and I think I was last. I was after you in the division. I was towards the end of the division. And there was, you know how at Warrior Cup, there's always that, there's a group of other competitors, whether they were in the show or not. That's where everybody congregated stage side as we would kind of get staged to go up on stage. And I really don't know what overcame me in that moment. But when you did that in the intro, and you just literally turned around and both bows were on the ground, I was furious. I was livid. I got visibly mad in the back, backstage with all those people around. And everybody, like, in that moment and also afterwards, were like, why were you so mad? Like, like that gave you a better chance. Like, what was your deal? But for me, it was truly, because that might have been my first year as an adult. And I remember feeling like, this isn't the way I wanted this to happen. Like, we're not supposed to do this against each other. We're supposed to hit and see who's going to win, right? And, you know, that's one thing that's crazy about the divisions that the three of us shared, is that really, if you look at across the history of those divisions, there weren't a whole lot of times that people got to see all three of us at our best. And so I just want to give you guys the opportunity to respond to that and maybe talk about some of those moments where it seemed like we were going to get one of those divisions. And don't get me wrong, we did get those divisions plenty of times. But how did y'all feel in those moments when, and obviously it's different because you guys are brothers too, so you probably were genuinely upset at the other person not having success, not about you wanting it to be a good division, but just you're sad for your brother, right? So in whatever order, whoever's got thoughts about it, I'm interested in
that. Nice. I'll kind of hit a little bit on like those moments that we did all three hit, and more so on the funny side. I feel like it probably didn't happen as much as it feels like when I think back onto it, but I feel like when we all nailed it, we all pulled separate nines, and then we're looking at each other like, well, and somebody else pulled up the win. Like Tyler would steal it from us all the time. So it's like, man, we can't win for losing because we're taking scores from each other when we're trying to, you know, take one of it. Well, we were trying to take it, and we, you know, whatever, Jackson. But yeah, I mean, it was always funny. I feel like we all three hit, and then somebody else would snag it because we couldn't pull the majority.
You know, one that comes to mind was actually, I think it was the last Battle of Atlanta that I competed in double bow. And I think it was like my last year competing. I wasn't even doing weapons that year because I set the goal of like, I think I wanted to get a Forms ISK and a Forms Diamond Ring. I think it was the Forms ISKA US Open. That would kind of complete, you know, my goals. And so I wasn't really putting a focus on double bow. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw double bow at Battle of Atlanta. And so I ended up working my way up through into the night show, and we all hit. But Cole kicked our butt. and he beat us, you know, and I just thought that was just a memory that I'll always hold dear because, like, it was just awesome. It was like, all right, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go disappear again. But, you know, and then another epic one was the Battle of Atlanta before that one, where I think it was before, where we once again all hit. And then Tyler Weaver comes out of nowhere, almost like his famous Jesus flip, and just kicked all of our butts right then and there. You know, shout out Tyler Weaver, you know. And then it seems like Jason is pulling one up from like the 2017 US Open when all of us hit our routine. And Tyler, and, you know, Shaheen Jahanbah. Shout out Shaheen as well. Phenomenal competitors there. So,
for sure. Yeah, so many great ones. 2017, you mentioned when Tyler beat us. You mentioned when Cole beat us. I won 2017 US Open.
I was trying to leave that out, man. Come on.
Right. No, I mean, some of my favorite of the three of us was, and I love how when you guys bring up some of your favorites, it's, like, when you think about your favorite divisions, they're not even necessarily the ones that you would win, right? They're just the ones that had the best moments. And so for me, they came after Cole got on Paul Mitchell because Cole was he came on to Paul Mitchell separately from Reid and Jake, which is up for debate, but whatever. And after Cole got on the team, it was different, right? Because it wasn't like, there wasn't the inner team rivalry anymore. And even, like, I think, Cole, you can agree with this. Like, you and I competing against each other, especially when you represented certain teams, got weird at times, right?
Yeah.
And it was just so much better when we were all wearing the same colors and we had that, you know what I mean? Where we were always friends, but it's harder to see your friend win when the friend represents the other team. Right.
That's right.
So to have those divisions where all three of us were in black and white and at our best, right? I think it happened in Ocean States once or twice. And not just us, having Tyler in those divisions as well, also wearing the black and white. I mean, for me, that's what I think back to as is like once we were in the last chapter, right? Like we'd gotten through all the other stuff. We were all right where we were supposed to be. And when we would hit forms in those moments, even some divisions, I remember Friday nights better than I do Saturday nights.
Yep.
Friday nights oftentimes were more fun than Saturday nights were to hit forms against each other because we got to come back and do it 3 times in a row. Or in my case, right? So, yeah, that's what I think back to. And that's why it's like it's hard to find the words because what we had is going to sound overly sentimental, but what we had was so special. Like, you don't get that every season, right? And we competed against each other for years. And there were few seasons that felt like the couple that we got to have all wearing the same colors, you know?
I think it kind of goes back to the fact that like I think it happens a little bit more now, but at the time I feel like, not as many people had a bunch of crossover training in terms of, you trained with your team and you guys got better and everything, but no matter what team Reid and I were on, no matter what team you were on, we were still training at SMAC, we were training at tournaments together. And so it's like, yeah, we did have a couple of those weird times, but throughout all of it, we were still hanging out. We were still competing with each other, still listening to your mom rap in the car. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it was cool for it to kind of all come together there at the end.
Absolutely. So now I want to get to one because I've been kind of tiptoeing around this as we've gotten to this part of the conversation. But yeah, Reid, go ahead.
I just have one thing because I don't think it'll come up again, and this is more of a feeling for some of the younger competitors or any competitors to look forward to. When you have such a stacked division, all of the aforementioned people, the 3 of us, everyone is lumped into this. Don't want to leave anybody out. When you have a stacked division of 3, 4, 5, 6, upwards of 7 people, and you do have that opportunity to go last, obviously people view that last spot as, oh, I have a better chance at winning, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I agree. I understand that. But what I'm talking about is when you have the opportunity to go last, and everyone hits their form, there is a certain feeling that you get because it's like, I have no option. I'm either going to do the best performance of my life or I'm going to lose. And when you're given that non-option, there is no fail. It is you do your best or nothing else. That is something that I hope each of you get to experience because I think all 3 of us have been there before. And I can't put it into words. It's just this feeling of like your nerves go away, that nothing happens. All the people in the audience disappear. And then it just becomes you against you. And that's the best form of competition there is. So I hate to go off script there, but I just felt like it was a good place for those young competitors who are getting on stage. I hope you get to feel that one day.
And it's so profound because as you say that, it brought me back to moments where I was in that spot. And we were all in that spot at some point. Each of us had the cards fall our direction at some point, and we're the last one with Cole going after you and I hit Reid or me going after the 2 of you hit. And, people ask all the time about, nerves in certain situations. Those were almost the easiest because it was no holds barred. It was, you knew you had to do everything exactly like you said. I thought it was beautiful the way you said, you've got to do the best form of your life or else you lose, right? And I think that those moments specifically are what elevated each of us. I think that each of us can look back to a moment like that. And, for me, that was what I consider to be the best form that I ever did. I tell people all the time that I thought 2017 US Open was my single best performance. And people are like, but you competed for like 3 years after that. I'm like, I know, I was better in 2017. And it was because of the exact moment that we talk about where the occasion necessitated, right? There was no option but to be at your personal best. And the fact that all 3 of us got to feel that, I think is really special. And to go back to what I was going to segue into before, and I'm so glad you interrupted me for that, Reid. I think about this often, and I've never actually asked you guys about it. So I'm interested to hear what it's like in the podcast setting. So for me, strategy, mentality was always easy because it was me against kind of a unit of two brothers, right? It's Jackson, go win, go beat those two, right? And most of the time, if I beat you two, I was going to beat everybody else, right? It's the way it worked. But for you guys, I can only imagine that had to be different is the easy word to use, right? Because in some ways, it was just as long as it's one of us, right? Which is a very different feeling than just what I had to do, which was go win, right? And so I want each of you to speak to that, because I truly can't imagine what that would have felt like, because that's different than teammates, right? You want to support teammates, but you don't want your teammate to beat you, right? And obviously as brothers, you didn't want the other brother to beat you, but you also didn't want them to lose, right? But again, this is me trying to put words to something that I can't imagine. So I'm going to let y'all talk.
I think you described it from probably the best perspective that you can look at it from, which is, yeah, kind of a unit. Like if we go in there, beat Jackson, we're good to go. One of us takes it home. It's still going back to Lebanon with us. We'll take it. And I think the root cause or why that's able to happen is because, and this sounds kind of weird to say, but when he's on the stage and I'm watching, I'm a spectator. I want him to win the division. I'm a spectator. He's going, but it's really hard to explain, but that switches off when he's not on the stage or when I'm going or we're getting scores. So it's like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but when he's up there, I want him to hit the best form that he's ever done. But as soon as he steps off, I'm going to beat that guy. It's time to go, or I'm waiting for scores at that point. But yeah, I think that we did definitely did ourselves a favor by looking at it from that perspective of like, yeah, if one of us takes it, we're good to go. I'm happy. Let's take it back.
Absolutely. And I feel the same way when I think about Cole competing. I was probably more nervous for him. So once again, I turned to that spectator, whether I'd already went. Like if I hit my form and Cole was next, my form's done. I forgot about it. It's over with. It's like it didn't even happen. I'm now solely focused on Cole. Didn't matter what I did. If he hit, I'm excited. If he dropped, I'm disappointed. So that was a weird feeling in that moment if I went first. If I went last and say Jackson had already gone, then Cole went and he hit, then I'm like, oh, it's go time. Like, all right. Like going back to what I had previously stated. Even if Jackson was going last and Cole was maybe before me, say something happened and say there was a fumble or whatever you call it, there would almost be like a burst of like, not anger, not mad at Cole, of course, but like, all right, it's all on. Like, like it would give that like boost, so to speak, of like, all right, well, I'm going to carry that into this. I'm going to take that energy that he just put out there, that effort, that blood, sweat, and tears. I'm going to attach it, and then we're going to go bring it home. I think you asked kind of like how we viewed you as well through this. For me, the type of competitor that you are, that Jackson is that he's working out. You know that he's working. You know that he's training. You know that he's probably statistically one of the most hitting forms competitors that there is. Like, there's not a room for error. Very, very few times is there room for error. And so because of that, it created that opportunity where this is going to sound really weird, but it's not so much that I was competing against Jackson in that moment, because I knew it was going to be amazing. Like it's kind of like a no option scenario. Jackson's going to do amazing. It was time for me to look myself in the mirror. It's like, am I going to hit or am I not going to hit? That is the competition. That is the moment there because of who Jackson is. I hope that is communicating to everybody, because I'm definitely not saying I wasn't competing against Jackson. That's not at all what I'm saying. It's more so like, I can bet that he's doing a 10 form. So how am I going to do a 10 form? Like that, that's kind of that mentality there. And that's kind of just how I viewed it. Jackson provided the opportunity for me to dig deep in myself as a competitor. That would be a short way of communicating that.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you. And now, okay, you said good things about me because it's my show, but I'm gonna say good things about you.
He paid me.
Yeah, I wrote you a check before this, sent you a Venmo. But anyway, so I also want to take the opportunity because that truly does mean a lot to me. There's no greater compliment than one that comes from your greatest competitor, right? And so I wanted to be sure that on this show, and I didn't put this on the script because I didn't want it to be scripted, was I wanted to make sure that I took the opportunity to thank you guys for what you did to my career. And you both had impacts in your own way. I'll start with Cole, because Cole was the one that I referenced this already. He came out of nowhere, right? Like Cole was the younger brother that had a hip injury and wasn't competing and didn't really care about competing. And I think the first tournament that we shared the ring in, and for people that don't know, Cole and I are basically the same age. We're like 2 months apart. So we always were in each other's ring. And Cole started competing wearing a Success Martial Arts Center uniform when I was already established. My breakout year was 2011. I moved up to 14, 15 in 2012. And I believe, Cole, was it 2012 that you started? It was right in there.
Yeah, I had been to tournaments here and there going through, like, kind of growing up in martial arts, but before I ever decided to actually like start training like a national athlete and start competing, it was probably around 2012.
Right. And so my earliest memory is at a U.S. Capitol Classics where, 2012, that would have been the tournament after I got added to Paul Mitchell. And me being added to Paul Mitchell recently tells you that I was dominant. 2011, 2012, throughout those 2 seasons, I didn't lose much, right? Reid was hurt, and Cole was brand new to the whole thing. And so it's weird to say it, but there was moments where it was like, okay, who's going to step up, right? And for Cole to do what Cole did, where he starts taking it seriously in middle of 2012, and 2013 is the year that Reid and I go back and forth all the time. By 2014, Cole was the guy I trained for. Reid went to the adult division, and in less than 2 years, Cole had become the guy threatening the guy who was the best. And I don't know that I've ever seen somebody do that quickly. And he did it in his own way. Like, he didn't do it by becoming the next somebody. He did it by becoming Cole Presley. He became the competitor that we all grew to love in 2 years. And the speed with which he did that and the way in which he did that is what pushed me. That's what prepped me for the adult division, because he was on my tail 100% of the time. And if I wasn't ready, I was going to get beat by him. And I'm forever indebted to Cole for doing that. Because, again, he was my age. He was the guy that I could have had 2 easy years. I could have had 2 easy years when Reid went to the adult division, and I could have won every overall, and it could have just been me on top of the world, and then I would have gotten wrecked in the adult division because I wouldn't have been ready for it. And Cole making me stay disciplined with how good he was essential to me. And now I'll talk about Reid. And Reid's story is funny because 2013 was the season that defined the matchups that Reid and I would come to have in the adult division, right? Because we really never got a fair shot at each other. I hadn't started when you were competing against Corey Lutkus and trying to win those grands, right? Then I start, and then I get good, and you happen to be almost dead when I get good. And then you come back from being almost dead, you get good again, but we're different age groups. I'm 13 and under, you're 14 and 17. We get one tournament of your single bow against my single bow, and you stumble in runoffs, and I win, right? That's at AKA in Chicago. And then, or was it Louisville?
I think it's Chicago.
Yeah, anyway. And then Reid tears his Achilles, and so then Reid's out again. And so finally, Reid's back. It's 2013, and we go into this season, right? And 2013 was really the first full season of double bow, right? Like, you did it some in 2012, but 2013 was really where double bow got momentum, right? And I won Warrior Cup. I don't remember how it happened. I don't know what happened in the runoffs. I don't even know if you did double bow in that runoff or whatever, right? But the first time that you beat me with double bow was Amerikick. And it was right before you got picked up on Amerikick. You were still on AKA, and you were going to make the move to Amerikick shortly. and I lost that runoff. And I still remember you went on, won the overall, and I remember like everybody was freaking out. There was a sportmartialarts.com article about it, about how Double Bow has arrived. I was like, well, crap, I let this happen, didn't I?
It was a meme.
And so where it gets funny is we get to New England Open. And I don't know if you know this story. So New England Open, there's been a few tournaments since Reid beat me the first time with Double Bow. He beats me a couple more times with Double Bow. And at this point, because I'm as competitive of a sport karate competitor as they come. So at this time, I'm like, something's got to give. I've got to overcome this, right? New England Open happens. We go to the runoff. And Claremont Poulin, one of my favorite promoters of all time, despite what he says in this moment. We have the runoff. Claremont was the center judge. And we're shaking hands. You shake Claremont's hand first. He congratulates you, whatever. And then I shake Claremont's hand, and he holds my hand a little bit longer. And he looks at me, and he goes, "You need 2 bows."
Yeah.
And I look at Claremont, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me right now? Like, you're telling me I can't do this unless I get another bow, right?" And then that evening, because that was Saturday, so Saturday night, Joe Greenhall ran the overalls off during the day. And on stage, I think we all remember this division. On stage, he gave us the opportunity. It was like 8 of us, right? It was the 3 of us. I think Tyler, Keenan, Carr. It was this massive division of weapons competitors. And that was for me the moment where I had enough because Claremont had made me so angry. And so, we do that division. I wind up winning that division that Joe Greenhall put on, which, by the way, there's rumors that New England Open's coming back. I hope it does because everything about that event is awesome. But anyway, so there was that, right? And, I think that season was such a turning point, specifically what Claremont said, because I could have been a good little 14-year-old competitor or whatever I was, or 15-year-old competitor, and said, okay, well, if that's what the judge said, maybe I should go try to do some double bow. But instead, my reaction was the opposite. And I was like, absolutely not. I am not going to do that. I'm going to beat this guy with 1 bow. And then, of course, that set up the rest of that season and the storylines that played out. And then us in the adult division, and then having that epic rivalry of single bow versus double bow that Cole would occasionally decide to spoil, right? But, both of those things, from Reid innovating something that was literally the antithesis to what I did, and me having to go against that, and Cole always being there to keep me straight and make sure that I was at the top of my game. I unquestionably would not have been the competitor that I was if it wasn't for the 2 of you. And the fact that we were friends through all of this is what makes it so much more powerful, right? Like everybody knows that I'm a karate nerd. And so you go through the great men's weapons divisions of the past, and you look at like a Kalman Matt and Rudy, or a Kalman Matt and Mark, or whatever combination. And yeah, those guys all liked each other, but they weren't best friends. They weren't groomsmen at each other's weddings, right? And even going back before that, the division over the years, what we had was so special to be able to push each other like we did, to all achieve the levels that we did, and do it for and because of each other is something that I will take to my grave. That I am eternally grateful for the experiences that we had with them. So thank you both for doing that for me, because it means more to me than I could ever put in words.
Absolutely. I think you summed it up beautifully. So I don't think that I could go into it because as we've seen, Kathy's bawling right now. And I've had a couple moments where I had to kind of take a breath because reflecting on all this has been pretty emotional in a sense. And I think you summed it up beautifully, and it goes both ways, man. We definitely wouldn't be where we are or where we were in competition without you there. So it means a lot hearing for that from you, and I hope it goes both ways.
It's something special hearing it from like a completely different perspective. We've had similar conversations like this before, but I know our story because we lived it. You know what I mean? Like it was us, and we were very close from the nights that we would spend just talking about God knows what, right? You know, so we were pretty integrated. But hearing you talk about Cole become Cole, I was like worried that my eyes were getting a little glossy over here. I was like trying to make sure that that it wasn't showing. And I think Jason just said it, and he must be reading my mind. It's crazy that this relationship happened simply because you guys drove to B&A and we were like on our way back to get our car. And it's like, oh, who's this guy with this, like, you know, bazooka case? And boom, relationship started from that point forward. And then here we are now. So like Cole said, I don't know if I have much to add, but other than just, like, you know, extending our thanks to you as well. So that's it. I'm so glad we were able to finally do this. You know, now where's Jake so we can talk about the time that, like, he won his first Warrior Cup and it wasn't one of us carrying it off stage. It was you. So, like, imagine what that was for our family, you know, seeing one of our competitors who probably had just beaten our butts earlier to get on that stage to go against our younger brother. And then instead of being like, you know, a normal competitor and letting the little guy struggle, you're like, you know what? I remember my first one. Let me help you. So, you know, it's just, yeah, I could keep talking and I'm not. So.
Well, hey, I saw a good comment, and instead of leaving everybody finishing this episode of the podcast crying, let's switch it up to some laughter. Because Jason also made a comment about the Twin Towers Classic one year that we win. And there's so many stories from this trip. First and foremost, the car ride there, which, Reid, is where you get the reference about my mom rapping the Jay-Z New York song, right? But let's also not forget that was one of those road trips. So the three brothers and I would load up into the Presley Mobile, which was this red Toyota Sienna, whatever van. And we had a PlayStation 2 with Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2. And we would plug in this game to the monitor on the car. And for 12 hours from Nashville to New York City, we played video games with each other, going to this tournament where we were about to compete against each other. So there was that. But then there was also the night show, right? Where one of the most insane coincidences in the history of sport karate had to unfold. Where Reid breaks his bow doing traditional weapons, right? And in the video that you can find on YouTube, you hear my mom.
That's what I was going to say.
I broke my bow the same night. I was in the night show as well and broke my bow doing my form. And it, again, any stories that y'all want to share of just like those crazy road trips and just those times that had nothing to do with us even competing against each other?
I think, and I don't remember a whole lot of detail because I was shaking with fear, was one of the times, I think it was when we were going to Twin Towers or another tournament up that way. We took a wrong turn. We ended up in the wrong place. And it was just nothing but pretty much like, look forward and we're going to get on out of here and we'll be all right. And so that one always comes up when I'm thinking, I'm like, man, thank goodness for GPSs now, because I think we would have avoided that altogether.
That's a good. Reid, do you have one?
It's hard to pick like super fun because they all kind of blend together. I mean, because there's been times of like we were eating at a restaurant. I forget which restaurant it was, but we end up both having like balloon hats on and we're just cutting it up. Or the IHOPs where your mom is cracking us up, or the time that we, you know, surprised Connor Griffith down for his birthday that one time. We're like playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And Call of Duty. I mean, like it's hard to pick the funny moments because, you know, sometimes people put like the funny moments as the best moments or the good moments, but like they're all the same. The highs, the lows, the funny, training inside a smack, talking to all hours of the night. We're equally as competitive in video games as we are in sport karate. So just remember that. but I'll let you, if you have any additional ones to share.
Well, no, it's the perfect segue because you brought up the good moments and the funny moments. But some of the best moments were the bad moments that in retrospect weren't that bad, that are now hilarious. Because, and Cole's with me on this, because one thing that especially a younger Reid that was so funny about him was that he would get so mad. And I remember there was one road trip. I think we were doing a seminar tour down in Texas, and my mom was driving, and I don't remember what the circumstance was, but we were lost, and Reid was mad, and I don't remember any of the details. But there's this moment that is hilarious to this day, where Cole and I were in the bucket seats in the middle, and all of a sudden Reid gets so mad that he springs up through the middle of the bucket. Maybe a couple 4-letter words said at some point in there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It was like one of the best moments. And then also I remember like training at SMAC, and we would like run sections together. And then are the holes still in the ceiling at SMAC, or did y'all fix it?
You can't take those down. Those are historical training pieces.
But there were moments where like we'd be running sections and Reid would drop. And so Reid would just take both of his bows and just fling them into the ceiling. And then it became a joke. And so then I would drop on a section, then I would shove my bow in the ceiling. And then instead of training, we played wall ball for the next half hour.
Yeah.
Wall ball.
Hey,
Yes.
hand-eye coordination, baby, right here.
Commented, Reid spilled his Starbucks, and that's why he came through the ceiling.
Hey, don't mess with my frappalapas, man. You know.
Oh my God!
It's a step
See, at some point, we got to get my mom on the podcast too, and we know we got to bring this back because we got to get Jake on the show and do all 3 Presley brothers, and then we'll probably, I mean, we got to get Avery on there at that point.
Yeah.
I'm sure Avery will get sick of us doing what we do for over an hour. But anyway, again, I'm so thankful to you guys for making this show happen. So much great stuff. Again, going all the way back to the beginning. New members on Competitive Edge, please share their posts when they announce it. We're going to be getting a Black Belt Magazine article out to show support for those new team members. Competitive Edge Winter Camp coming back, which we're so excited for. We dropped the registration link down in the chat here, so make sure you give that a click. We'd love to see you guys there. And again, Reid and Cole, just so thankful for you guys making this happen and for sharing the experiences that we've been able to share. I want to give you guys a chance. Any closing comments or thoughts?
I don't know. This was not planned at all, but it just came out of nowhere. Listening to you talk about the positive moments and how close we were, the good, the bad. And it's like we all, us on here, people watching, whether they come from a martial arts school or they're in sport karate, we all love martial arts and we all love sport karate. And I just want to say, when I was able to take a second and kind of step away and kind of look from afar, right? You have so many people talking about how do we grow the sport? How do we get more competitors here? How do we take this sport to the next level, make it more mainstream? We have Cobra Kai. It's one of the most viewed things. You have, martial arts schools opening up all over the place. Like martial arts is a hot topic. How do we get more people involved in the sport karate? And, the first thing that comes to mind is we got to start loving each other a little bit more. Like I see so many things happening where it's like one side is angry at another side and it's just like back and forth. And it's like, guys, let's see some good out there. Like, let's highlight each other. Let's build each other up. Rising tide raises all boats. Like, I don't know how else to say that, because you can have, now that I'm not competing, I say, you can have super traditional, you can have the most extreme creative martial arts. It's still martial arts. It's still from the same family. It stems from the same roots. And we all want the same thing. We all want martial arts to go to the next level. So, like, it's okay. Conflict is amazing. It has that sense of where there's growth that can take place, but that conflict needs to come from a place of love. So I just wanted to use this opportunity. If people are watching, let's love each other a little bit, because at the core, we all want the same things. So let's take that to the next level. And it all starts with the youth. I can talk about that all day as well. So,
amen, brother.
All right. After monologue number 7 for the show from Mr. Reid Presley over here. Yeah, I mean, Jackson, this podcast it didn't really go how I thought it would. You kind of sent us a little bit of some other topics and stuff, but some of the emotion and memories have flooded back through this conversation. So thank you for having us aboard. I'll take blame why I haven't been on this podcast yet. You've asked a couple of times. I'm slow to respond, but I'm glad I finally made it happen. I'm glad that you still welcomed me onto the show, and it's been a blast, and I look forward to doing it again.
Well, again, thank you guys so much. Thank you to everybody tuning in. As I always say, this podcast wouldn't be possible without all the viewers' love and support. If you enjoyed this show, which if you tuned in, I don't know how you didn't, make sure you hit that share button. Let all your friends and family know. And that's all I got for you guys. Once again, keep spreading the gospel of sport karate. Let's all love each other, like Reid said. I'm Jackson Rudolph. This has been episode 116 of the Jackson Rudolph podcast. And I'll see you next time.